From never being worthy of being an enemy to being unable to be surpassed. How did China make the United States despair step by step? In 2000, the new millennium began, and the United States was at its peak. The fiscal surplus directly amounted to $237 billion. There is too much money to spend, and the right to speak is spread to every corner of the world. Look at us back then, a big country with a population of 1.2 billion, with an annual fiscal revenue of 1.34 trillion yuan is converted into US dollars, and even the balance left by the United States cannot keep up. To be honest, the gap between China and the United States at that time, it's really disappointing. If you could go back in time and tell any American congressman, China will become a rival of the United States in the future, people will most likely look at you like you're crazy. Either they think you are here to defraud money, or they think you are a clown here to gain attention. The United States was so powerful at that time, the Soviet Union collapsed and Eastern Europe changed color overnight, feeding the entire American elite a deadly ecstasy. Our system is the best in the world and our hegemony is unrivaled. There is no need to put in all your efforts to suppress your opponents. They will collapse sooner or later. With this crushing arrogance and confidence, the United States treats the whole world with a cat and mouse play with ease. As long as you don't openly challenge his authority, he is happy to watch you work hard and give you a chance. Anyway, in the end, it is the United States that enjoys the benefits and collects the world's wealth while holding champagne. Harvest cleanly, this hegemonic strategy has been used by the United States for decades, and it has almost never failed. Only in China, it was completely screwed up. Before 2008, we always focused on one strategy: concentrate on development, keep a low profile and accumulate strength, do not cause trouble, and do not show off. This calmness and restraint just happened to prevent the Bush administration from intervening all over the world. It's obvious that Europe and the United States have not thought about containing us, but China's supermarkets with 1.3 billion people. It's so attractive. When transnational capital enters China, it makes a lot of money. Capital is making good money, and politicians in Congress will naturally be reluctant to take action. The deep binding of economic interests, coupled with the fact that we always keep a low profile and bide our time. The most ridiculous political lie of this century, the theory of China's collapse, has become popular in the Western world. In 2005, Netizen Jieliang Saber posted a prediction on Tianya Forum. China's GDP will surpass Japan's in 2030. The result? What came was overwhelming sarcasm. In 2004, China's GDP was only 1.96 trillion US dollars. Japan has a whopping 4.89 trillion US dollars. Even if Japan stays still, we will still need to maintain high growth for more than 10 consecutive years to catch up. At the time, this seemed like a fantasy. Even Japan is far behind, so how can we talk about competing with the United States? As a result, Zhangjiad and tributaries made their debut. You are peddling falsehoods over and over again. Stop struggling. China will soon collapse on its own. This self-comforting political hypnosis accurately caters to the pride and prejudice of the West.Make European and American executives feel extremely comfortable. Therefore, no matter what development achievements China made in those years, Europe and the United States rudely denied it in just one sentence. Data fraud is all an illusion. We don't have to attack the city. Faced with the crude denial from Europe and the United States, we never defend ourselves, let alone internal conflicts. They just worked hard, and in the most sensitive 10 years, they did not leave any excuse for Europe and the United States to suppress them. Seize your own strategic window perfectly. In the historical process of China's rise, two people's divine assists must be firmly remembered. The first one is George W. Bush. He is really not a sober leader of a big country. When he first came to power, his attitude towards China was extremely tough. After the collision in the South China Sea, Sino-US relations fell to a freezing point. If the United States is determined to contain domestic affairs with all its strength, our development path will inevitably be partial. It was a difficult situation, but when the September 1999 incident broke out, George W. Bush completely diverted the United States' global strategic focus. Driven by anger, he first launched a war in Afghanistan, and then invaded Iraq, forcibly dragging the United States into the quagmire of the Middle East for 20 years. More than $2 trillion in military spending were poured into a bottomless pit, and countless soldiers paid the price with their lives. What did you get in the end? The Afghan regime has come full circle. Back in the hands of the Taliban, Iraq changed from Iran's mortal enemy to Iran's friendly partner. Russia has completely given up on the United States and is getting closer to China. George W. Bush held the power of the United States for 8 years at its peak. The most important thing to do is to keep an eye on China as a potential rival. But he chose to go around the world to fight monsters ineffectively, and personally took advantage of the most critical strategic opportunities. All wasted. The second person is Zhang Jiaduan. I don't know where his obsession comes from. He has been feeding the White House all year round poisonous chicken soup, preaching every day that China's economy is about to collapse and society is about to be turbulent. The predictions are overturned every time, but they still swear by it. American political elites are unwilling to face the fact that China is steadily rising. Zhang Jiaduan's lies just gave them the most honorable step. They would rather deceive themselves and others and believe that China will collapse on its own than admit that China is becoming stronger step by step on its own. In this way, an extremely absurd strategic double act was officially staged. George W. Bush acted recklessly on the front line, draining the foundation of American national strength. Zhang Jiaduan spread rumors and deceived people from behind, paralyzing the top decision-makers in the United States. The two types of people sang together and jointly contributed to the most outrageous strategic misjudgment of the United States this century. The United States is wasting its national destiny, but China is seizing the time and taking off all the way, unstoppable. Entering the market in 2001, GDP was only $1.34 trillion. GDP soared directly to $17.73 trillion in 2021. In 20 years, its size has increased more than 10 times, and it has firmly become the second largest economy in the world. Take what everyone thought was impossible back then, became a reality within reach. It was really difficult for us back then. We were poor, miserable, and looked down upon by the whole world. For a long time, the United States did not take us seriously. In his hegemonic logic, only the Soviet Union could be considered a comparable opponent. The rest of the countries are either vassals, cutting leaks on behalf of others, or they are not worth mentioning at all. Europe is firmly under his control, and America is his back garden. The Middle East was torn to pieces by him, and Japan and South Korea were tightly controlled by him. Southeast Asia was wiped out by a financial crisis. Russia once bowed its head and wanted to integrate into the West, but was always shut out. China is the only country that is neither humble nor arrogant, never takes the initiative to cause trouble, and is never afraid of trouble. So low-key that the United States completely relaxes its vigilance. Faced with the extreme disparity in strength, we did not do anything stupid. Don't go head-to-head and make unnecessary sacrifices. Don't blindly show off your strength and fall into traps. He will not kneel down, surrender, or give up his dignity. Our choice is always clear: keep a low profile and bide our time, but never give up on development. Bear the humiliation and bear the heavy burden, but always retain the confidence. If the strength is insufficient, use the vast market in exchange for development time. If the gap is too large, use low-key and forbearance. In exchange for strategic space, we can work hard behind closed doors. Others asserted that we could not build advanced fighters, so we started with the J-10 and worked step by step until the J-20 was born. Others mock us for not being able to play with modern aircraft carriers. We transformed the scrap ship hulls we bought into powerful weapons for a great nation. Others believe that we cannot master high-end anti-missile technology, but we have to overcome difficulties and achieve world-class results. At the forefront, just step by step, we have gone from being beyond reach to catching up and walking side by side. Now, the United States has become panicked, anxious, and helpless. How arrogant the United States was back then. How passive it is today. How low-key we were back then. How tough we are today. The decline of the United States has never been caused by any country's defeat. It's his own arrogance, recklessness, short-sightedness, and paranoia. He played a good hand of cards to pieces and ruined his hegemonic advantage with his own hands. Our rise has never depended on luck. It's not about anyone's charity, but the hard work of countless Chinese people. The country always remains awake, maintains a steady pace, and does not take any detours. Come out in a down-to-earth manner. In hindsight, the road we took was difficult and bumpy, but the path was extremely correct and extremely determined. 250 years of duel of political wisdom, 5,000 years of civilization of great powers. This outcome has actually been determined for a long time. Can you believe it? Today's young Americans are adopting an attitude that is almost like a pilgrimage. Embrace China crazily. They live in confrontation with Chinese people on Little Red Book, and excerpt Chinese proverbs on social platforms. Called the Chinese the elves of the real world. They even revived the idea of more than half a century ago. Chairman Mao's thoughts, which had a profound influence on the United States. The source of all this stems from the crisis that the United States is experiencing in recent years. All-round collapse. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are at odds with each other, and Trump and Biden are attacking each other. No matter who comes to power, their core goal is to fight for power and enrich themselves, and the people's livelihood issues that should be improved the most. But no one cared about it. ICE's violent law enforcement has repeatedly resulted in the death of innocent people. Massive protest marches broke out in many cities across the United States. The Ivor tragedy revealed the tip of the iceberg of the evil of the American elite. But just this one kick completely tore apart the trust among all classes in the United States. In addition, there are frequent shootings and widespread drug use. Law and order has deteriorated. Homeless people are all over the streets. Even the most basic sense of security has become a luxury for ordinary Americans. There are also high-sugar diets, drug addiction, sky-high medical prices, and sky-high legal services, forming a complete and strict chain of capitalist harvesting. Countless American families have fallen back into poverty due to illness, returning to poverty due to unemployment, and eventually falling into despair. We are just spectators at the killing line. But what about countless Americans? They are personally bearing the consequences of this line. It's painful to see that no matter which dimension you look at, the United States today is no longer the so-called beacon of the world in the past. The deep-seated shortcomings of the capitalist system have been completely exposed. More and more Americans are falling into anger, confusion, and pain, but still can't find a way to break this situation. At this moment, a Chinese proverb without any hatred or emotional opposition completely awakened them. Eggs are food when opened from the outside. Opening from the inside is new life. Real change never involves external attacks to deflect conflicts. It's about awakening from within and innovating from within. Overnight, learning from Chinese wisdom swept the entire American internet. Countless young Americans are no longer superstitious about the West's zero-sum game and confrontational thinking. Instead, they are attracted by China's, the introversion and tolerance of philosophy deeply attracted. What's even more interesting is that they also compared the Chinese to the elves. Heilongjiang is translated as River of Black Dragon and Jilin is translated as Forest of Luck. Qinghai is translated as Turquoise Sea. In American culture, these terms are the fairy continent in myths and legends. The Chinese are the elves living on this continent. Since the Chinese are elves, they should learn from the elves. As a result, more and more young Americans are beginning to imitate the Chinese in drinking hot water. Daily habit of changing into slippers when entering the house when it is hot and humid. Begin to accept that Chinese people stay away from drugs. Being away from the psychological state of drugs has relieved many people's physical pain. Stay away from addictive drugs and avoid delicious food. It's the harvest of sky-high medical care. Young Americans also learned that China has strong drug control and good social security. Even in megacities like Beijing and Shanghai, people don't need to worry at all when traveling late at night. This is in sharp contrast to the chaos in America's big cities. Americans, who are troubled by drug abuse and public security, increasingly regard China as an unpolluted country. Ideal place. The song I'm Tired of Not Being Chinese, written by Californian singer Neil Koloff. The number of online views quickly exceeded 1 million. How to learn to be Chinese has become an online fashion trend among young people across the United States. Since last year, a large number of American netizens have flocked to Xiaohongshu to compare the security situation with Chinese netizens one by one. Medical care, education, prices, infrastructure, public services. The results shocked them immensely. China's high-speed rail mileage ranks first in the world, covering more than 99% of cities with a population of more than 200,000. China's average daily express delivery volume exceeds 300 million items, and basic medical insurance coverage exceeds 95%. The compulsory education consolidation rate has stabilized at over 95%. Safety of mobile payments, online services, and traveling at night. They are all far ahead of the United States, But what about the United States? There are few high-speed rails and medical insurance costs are high. Public services are inefficient, and legal service fees remain high. More than a third of Americans can't come up with a $400 emergency fund. More than 20% of Americans have sold blood to survive. The number of homeless people living on the streets has hit new highs every year. When the real China is before their eyes, many Americans finally wake up. It turns out that a truly stable, down-to-earth, and promising life is not what Western propaganda describes. But in China, we have all been deceived by the propaganda of American public opinion. Of course, this is not the first time that China has profoundly influenced the United States. In the 1960s, Chairman Mao's thought swept the entire United States. Chairman Mao's quotations were used in the American youth movement and civil rights movement. Spread widely, serve the people, rely on the masses. All reactionaries are paper tigers. These sonorous and powerful words have inspired countless people at the bottom of the United States to take to the streets. Anti-war, anti-racial discrimination, anti-class oppression. The pursuit of fairness and justice can be said to be the ideological sparks from the East. Only then did American society take steps toward equality and progress. More and more young Americans are beginning to study Mao Zedong as eagerly as their ancestors. An anthology of reciting Chairman Mao's quotations, trying to find ways to fight against injustice. The power to change reality. 60 years of vicissitudes. The Chinese model is finally being looked up to by Americans again. Kissinger once used a classic metaphor to accurately point out the strategic differences between Chinese and Western civilizations. Western strategy is like chess. It pursues defeating the enemy with one move and achieving short-term decisive victory. China's strategy is like Go. It pays attention to the overall layout, besiege for a long time and win with stability. People at that time may not have a deep understanding of this, but after decades of long-distance running, history has given the answer. Although the West can use its strong ships and cannons to do evil for a while, however, the shortcomings of its civilization itself, coupled with the inherent shortcomings of capitalism, will eventually bury the country's future. The Chinese have always believed that those who do not plan for the overall situation cannot plan for one area. Those who do not plan for eternity cannot plan for a moment. We do not pursue temporary hegemony or indulge in zero-sum games. We do not pursue extreme individualism, but put the people as the center, take the long term as the goal, and take one step at a time. Walk out of your own royal road. In essence, American young people are now rushing to learn from China. This is not because we are deliberately promoting it, nor is it because they are born. I have a good impression of China by nature, but the Western model is no longer able to cope with the crises of today's era. Knowing that there is a dead end ahead, everyone will try to turn. When confrontation leads to social tearing, when sin causes the collapse of faith, when capital creates harvest of despair, the once shining lighthouse of the West will eventually go out. Only stability represented by Chinese civilization, tolerance, tenacity, pragmatism and long-term are the real answers to mankind's problems.